It's 11:47 on a random Tuesday night. Your room is dark, your phone screen is the only light, and for the third time today, you open your banking app again. Same number, same little line of digits staring back at you. $10,284. It's not nothing. You worked hard for that. You skipped dinners out, ignored a couple of sales, maybe drove a car that makes weird noises just to keep this money alive. But there's this quiet, irritating thought in the back of your mind. Is this ever going to turn into something real? Or am I just going to sit here watching the same number until I'm 60? Here's the part nobody tells you. Somewhere else, right now, there is another person with almost the exact same $10,000 as you. Same age, similar income, same country, same everything. The difference, their $10,000 is already on a boring, automatic, mathematical path to seven figures. Same starting line, two completely different finish lines. In this video, I'm going to show you the fork in that road, because that quiet $10,000 sitting in your account is either going to retire you years earlier than you think, or get quietly eaten one tiny, reasonable decision at a time, until one day you look up and realize you have no idea where it went. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to show you the exact range of years where your money can start earning more than you do at your day job, if you treat that $10,000 differently starting this month. My name is Hosak Eiling, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about why two people with the same income, the same degree, the same city, and the same starting savings end up living completely different financial lives. One of them wakes up in their 50s with investments quietly throwing off more money than their younger self ever earned in a salary. The other wakes up at the same age and realizes they've basically just been working and paying bills on repeat for 3 decades. The difference isn't luck, it's not intelligence, it's not hustle culture. It usually comes down to what they did or didn't do with the first serious chunk of money they ever saved. So here's what we're going to break down today. What actually happens to $10,000 when you do what most people do? What happens when you put that same $10,000 on a long, boring, compounding path towards seven figures? The 3 quiet decisions that determine which future you get, and why almost nobody makes them on purpose. This is not a get-rich-quick video. There are no meme coins, no risky trading strategies, no turn 10K into 100K this year nonsense. This is simple math, real timelines, and real psychology. If you can understand a basic monthly budget, you can understand how your $10,000 becomes $1 million, or why it never will. Let's start with the future almost everyone accidentally chooses. You finally get ahead. You pay down the worst of your high-interest debt, you stop overdrafting your account every other week, and you manage to keep $10,000 sitting there for the first time in your life. And because you don't want to risk it, you leave it in the place every adult around you has always called safe. Your checking account or a basic savings account paying maybe 0.5 to 1% interest if you're lucky. On paper, that feels like the responsible move. But here's the math nobody walks you through. Over long periods, prices of basically everything you buy, food, rent, medical bills, college tuition, cars, drift upward by a few percent a year. Over those same long periods, a broad US stock market index has historically returned about 10% per year before inflation, or around 6 to 7% after inflation, on average. So if your money is just sitting in cash, you're not actually being safe. You're quietly signing up for a guaranteed loss of purchasing power every single year. You can still see the $10,000 on your phone, but every year that passes, those dollars buy a little less rent, a little less food, a little less life. And here's the dangerous part. No one sends you a notification saying, "Congratulations, you just lost $800 in real value this year by doing nothing." 10 years go by. You never did anything crazy. You didn't blow the money on a sports car. You didn't start some doomed business. You just left it there. On the surface, that looks responsible, but in reality, you bought the most expensive kind of safety possible. The kind that feels safe while quietly guaranteeing you'll have to work harder and longer later. Everyone worries about making the wrong investment and losing half their money in a crash. Almost no one worries about making no investment and losing half of their future quietly to inflation and wasted time. Now, let's rewind the tape. Same you, same job, same city, same $10,000 sitting in your account. But this time, you decide that money isn't a trophy. It's seed capital. You spend an afternoon opening a basic brokerage account. Nothing fancy, no day trading app with confetti and flashing lights, just a boring account that lets you buy broad, low-cost index funds, the kind that simply track big slices of the market rather than trying to outsmart it. You move the $10,000 into that account. And more importantly, you make one decision that almost nobody sticks with. From now on, $400 leaves my checking account automatically and joins this $10,000 whether I feel like it or not. That's roughly $13 a day. About one delivery meal, or two I'll just grab a coffee on the way runs, or that random Amazon order you don't even remember a week later. Not nothing, but not impossible. Now, let's talk about what happens over time if you let this run for decades, assuming an average long-term market return in that same 7 to 10% range historically seen in the US stock market. The first few years are boring. After year one, you're thinking, really? All this effort for a couple extra thousand? After 5 years, your balance looks respectable, but it still feels like something you could undo with one bad year. This is where most people bail. They get impatient, switch strategies, chase something flashier, or just stop contributing. But if you stay, somewhere around the 10 to 15 year mark, something very strange happens. The growth your investments produce in a single year starts to rival what you're putting in. Then it surpasses it. That's the moment the snowball you've been pushing uphill for a decade finally crests the hill and starts rolling down on its own. In the early years, every dollar of growth feels like it comes from your sweat. In the later years, the money you already invested starts doing the heavy lifting. You go from, I work and my savings grow a little, to, my savings worked harder than I did this year. Most people never see that phase, not because the math doesn't work, but because they never stay in the game long enough for it to show up. If the math is this straightforward, why doesn't everyone with $10,000 end up with a 7-figure portfolio eventually? It's not because they're bad with numbers, it's because they run into 3 quiet killers of compounding. Killer number 1, lifestyle creep. The first killer shows up disguised as rewarding yourself. You get a raise, you get a promotion. Suddenly, for the first time, you feel like a real adult. And instead of upgrading your investments, you upgrade your lifestyle. The car payment edges up by $150 a month. The apartment gets an extra bedroom for future plans. Eating out goes from weekend treat to 3 times a week because I'm tired. Again, none of this feels reckless. You're not buying yachts, you're not renting a penthouse. But every extra recurring bill is money that can't go into your snowball. Lifestyle creep is sneaky because it never asks for a big, dramatic decision. It just asks you to say yes to slightly better everything until there's nothing left for your future. Killer number 2, resetting the clock. The second killer shows up every time the market has a bad year. You open your investment account and see a number that is lower than it was last month. All you can think is, I worked so hard for this, I can't watch it disappear. The news doesn't help. Headlines scream about recessions, crises, so you do what feels rational in the moment. You sell and move to cash once things calm down. On a chart, that looks like one normal little decision, but in reality, you just reset your compounding clock. You sold when everything was already cheap. You sat in cash while the market slowly recovered. You felt safe, but missed the time when your contributions would have bought the most shares. Then, once everything looks healthy again, you creep back in, buying at higher prices that your past self would have laughed at. Compounding isn't just about returns. It's about time spent actually invested. Every panic sell is you picking up your snowball, carrying it halfway up the hill, and starting over. Killer number 3, the I'll start later illusion. The third killer is the most dangerous because it sounds completely reasonable. Once I make more money, then I'll invest seriously. Here's the trap. The math of compounding is cruel to procrastinators. Those first 10 to 15 years, when your account still feels small and almost pointless, are actually the most valuable years of the journey. The dollars you invest early get the longest time to grow, which means they end up doing the most work for you. Waiting until you feel ready doesn't just delay your progress, it often cuts your eventual number in half compared to someone who started with less money but more time. You can always add more dollars later. You can never add more years. Okay, enough theory. Let's talk about an actual plan. I'm going to give you a boring blueprint that has created more millionaires over normal lifetimes than almost anything you'll ever see on social media. We're going to use 3 levers you actually control. Starting capital, your $10,000, monthly contribution, money you add consistently, and time, the number of years you're willing to let this run. Here's a simple version you can adapt to your situation. Move the $10,000 into a diversified low-cost index fund. Commit to investing $400 per month automatically. Increase that by a small percentage every time you get a raise, even just $25 to $50 extra each year. Why this structure? The $10,000 gives you a head start. The $400 builds the habit and keeps fresh money flowing in. The gradual increases counteract inflation and keep your contributions meaningful. Over a working lifetime, say 25 to 30 years, that combination, at historically reasonable market returns, pushes your total contributions into the low 6 figures and then lets compounding growth do the rest. Could you hit exactly $1 million on the dot? Maybe, maybe not. Real markets go up and down. But the point isn't hitting a perfect number. The point is stacking the odds so far in your favor that ending up somewhere in that neighborhood stops being a fantasy and starts being the default outcome of your habits. And here's a crucial detail. The most important part of this plan is not the exact fund you pick or whether you contribute $350 or $450 per month. The most important part is that you do not break the chain. You keep investing through good years and bad. You don't pause contributions every time life gets slightly inconvenient. You treat your future as a bill that's just as real as rent or groceries. Because your future self doesn't care which specific ETF you picked in 2026. They care whether you actually kept going. To really lock this in, let me introduce you to 2 fictional but painfully realistic people, Alex and Jordan. Both are 28 years old. Both earn similar salaries. Both saved $10,000 for the first time in their lives. Alex, the quiet millionaire path. Alex moves the $10,000 into an index fund and sets up that $400 automatic investment we talked about. He hates seeing the market fall just as much as you do. There are years where his account balance looks like a bad joke. But he decides that market crashes are not verdicts on his intelligence. They're temporary mood swings of millions of strangers. So he keeps buying, month after month, year after year, even when it feels stupid. Whenever Alex gets a raise, he lets his lifestyle creep up a little. He's not a robot, but he also gives his future a raise by increasing his monthly contribution. At 38, he's not rich, but his investments are finally adding more in growth each year than he's adding in fresh cash. At 48, his portfolio's annual growth is starting to rival what he earns from his job. At 58, he realizes something surreal. Even if he stopped working completely, his money could realistically keep growing while still throwing off enough income to live on. He didn't win the lottery. He just walked the same boring path for a very long time. Jordan, the vanishing 10K. Jordan also saves $10,000. It feels amazing, but instead of investing it, he leaves it in cash for flexibility. He tells himself he'll start investing seriously once he hits $20,000, or once the market looks less risky, or once he feels more secure at work. Meanwhile, life happens. The temporary car becomes a nicer SUV with a payment. The slightly more expensive apartment becomes normal. A couple vacations show up because what's the point of money if you never enjoy it, right? None of these choices are evil. if you saw Jordan's Instagram, you'd probably think, honestly, he looks like he's doing fine. But slowly, quietly, the $10,000 shrinks. There's never a moment where he says, I have decided to give up on my future million. It's death by 1,000 reasonable decisions. 10 years later, Alex's investments are throwing off more growth in a bad year than Jordan has in his savings account in a good year. Same starting 10K, radically different stories. Part 6. The Psychological Unlock, 2300 to 2430. Here's the part the spreadsheets never show you. This isn't just about dollars, it's about who you get to be in your own life. When you have a growing pile of assets behind you, your brain works differently. You stop asking, can I survive if something goes wrong? And start asking, what do I actually want to do with my time? A bad boss becomes an inconvenience, not a prison warden. A career change becomes a decision, not a catastrophe. Saying no to things that drain you stops feeling reckless and starts feeling responsible. Debt and financial stress have been shown in real research to literally impair your decision-making and increase anxiety. On the other hand, reducing fixed financial pressure has been linked to better cognitive performance and better life choices over time. Compounding doesn't just build wealth, it buys you bandwidth. It gives your brain room to make better calls about everything else. So let's bring this back to you and whatever number is hiding in your banking app right now. You might not have $10,000 yet. Maybe you have $600. Maybe you're just trying to get back to zero. That's fine. The principle is the same. You don't need the perfect amount of money to start. You just need to stop treating your savings like a pet you occasionally admire and start treating it like an employee whose job is to bring back more money. Here's your challenge when this video ends. Decide what portion of your current savings is untouchable seed money. Whatever that number is, name it and protect it. Pick a realistic monthly contribution you can sustain, even if it's $100 or $150 at first. Automate it so your feelings don't get to vote every month. Your future self will not remember the random takeout, the extra streaming service, or the impulse gadgets you don't own anymore. They will remember whether you gave that first $10,000 or that first $600 or that first $1,200 the time and the chance to become the quiet million it was always capable of becoming. The truth is, you are not paid just once for your work. You can be paid twice. The first payment is your salary. The second is what happens when you force that salary to keep working long after you've gone home. Most people never get that second paycheck because they never give their money a job. So if this video helped you see your own $10,000 differently, do two things before you click away. Hit like so YouTube shows this to more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to my channel because in the next videos, we're going to break down exactly how to choose your first investments, how to protect yourself from the 3 killers we talked about today, and how to design a plan where your money eventually works harder than you ever have to. Your $10,000 is already choosing a future. The only question is whether you are choosing it or whether you're letting everyone else, your bank, your impulses, your lifestyle, choose for you.